I'd never played football in my life.
If anybody needs to go home, I've already called the BC. You guys are free to go home.
You are listening to EMS with your hosts, Erik Axene and Matt Ball.
Have you ever read a book?
Nope, never read a book in my life.
Well, no, seriously. Have you ever read a book that kind of started off with the best part of the book, and then it just never got any better? My football career is like that. My very first play was my best play ever in collegiate football. Very first play, kickoff coverage. I got down there, first one down there, just blasted the guy, the returner.
It was all downhill from there.
Oh, fumbled the ball into the end zone, touchdown, right, for us.
You got the touchdown?
No, one of my colleagues, one of my teammates.
One of my colleagues did.
One of my teammates grabbed the ball, but I delivered the blow.
Yeah.
And I'd never played football in my life. This is my first game, first play ever.
Really?
Yeah. This is crazy, right?
That's good.
But that was the best play I ever had.
Well, you know.
That's how I feel today. We're starting with what we talked about in our previous podcast is the team aspect of health and wellness, and how I think that's the most important thing, and we're starting with it. So in some ways, let's start with the most important thing.
The T of Thrive.
The T in Thrive.
That's right. So if you want to learn more about health and wellness and EMS information, all kind of things like that, check out our channel, subscribe to our channel, like this video. If you are a first responder, paramedic, EMT, EMR, advanced EMT, whatever.
Alphabet soup.
Alphabet soup, yeah. If you are a first responder in the EMS field and you are looking for CE content, check out the link in our description box. We provide all kinds of CE content that I think you guys will really enjoy.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
CE content. I hate to call it CE because CE is a bad word. This is an experience.
It's a CE. It's a continuing experience, not continuing education. All right. So the T in Thrive, team. Right. We talked about all the different pillars, but now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the team aspect. And you said in the last podcast that you thought that the team aspect was really the most important aspect of overall health, or a very important one. They're all very high.
It's kind of like saying, what's the most important part of an airplane, right?
Yeah, they're all pretty important.
Somebody might say the
wings,
the engine, or whatever, the engine's right.
Yeah.
But the pilot. But if one, crucial piece in an engine fails, or in the right,
yeah.
So everything is crucial.
Yes.
Right. It's really important. Yeah. But to me, when I asked the question, the last one is like, if you had someone who's really struggling with all 6 pillars,
right,
which one would you want to do first?
10%.
I would say I would start with team. Get in the community of people around you that you can love and that can love you, and
hold
support
you,
hold you accountable.
Yes.
There's a lot of aspects to team that we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So let's start with.
There is no I in team, which goes to the isolation.
That's right.
There is no I in isolation.
No. There's no I in team. You're right. This is there's something about community, right?
Yes.
And I think and we mentioned, like in Americana, most movies have that one hero who by themselves,
Rambo or
they take
Captain
on
America.
Everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't
Not
need
realistic.
anybody's help, and everybody's kind of left them alone, and then they succeed, and that makes a good movie.
Not real life.
I had the opportunity to work for The Rock, in many ways, being an XFL physician
I have
in
one
Arlington.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you smell what he was cooking?
I never did smell what he was cooking.
Just curious. Continue.
I did stand next to him, and I couldn't smell him.
Did you kind of tower over him? Did you puff out the chest a little bit?
I'll be honest, he wasn't as tall as I thought he would be.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Because he seems like he's like 8 feet tall.
Well, yeah, I thought he was like 6'5", 6'6". No?
That might be what he's... No.
Yeah,
when
right.
I played football, my numbers were not quite true.
They're always smidged a little bit.
But I was standing there next to him on the sidelines of a Renegades game.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't as tall as I thought.
Now, how tall are you?
Just a little over 6 feet tall.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm wearing shoes, maybe 6'2".
So what would you say he is realistically? Total ballpark.
6'3", maybe.
6'3". I mean, still
6'3". He's
a massive human being.
Yeah, but I.
Yeah.
It's funny, when you see somebody in Hollywood, and it's
bigger than life.
It's kind of like what we're talking about now, right?
Yeah.
These Hollywood personas. Sometimes we personalize these things. You start watching these movies and you want to be like fill in the blank.
The Rock, yeah.
Yeah, or
I'm going to be more like Kevin Hart. You're The Rock. In this relationship, you're The Rock.
That's
I am
funny.
Kevin Hart.
That's funny. I was thinking Laurel and Hardy, but
that's probably more accurate. Yeah.
I want to share a couple things with you, Matt. I'm going to look down here at my computer, but the
to get his data.
Yeah, the U.S. Surgeon General, this past year, had issued an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. For the first time in American history, we have 60% of our population saying that they're lonely.
That's crazy.
It is. Right, and I think this is such an important part of our health. If the first thing I'm going to say to somebody for their health is go find friends or go connect with your friends, I really believe that.
Yeah.
I really believe that's going to be one of the first things. And instead of saying stop your smoking or stop eating McDonald's
or whatever,
or start exercising or whatever, before any of that, I'll say, build a network, a community of people around you. Yeah. I think that's really important. And not just that, you may have a lot of friends, maybe, quote unquote, but do they really know you? Find a small group of people that you know and love and trust and really, become known and get deeper. That doesn't happen on Facebook.
And I was going to say, that's exactly what I was just going to say, because I think to our younger viewers, right, like we said in the last podcast, they look at it, well, I've got 1,000 followers on Instagram or 10,000 followers on TikTok or whatever. Right. And they think that they have all these friends, and that's not what we're talking about. That is not community. That is not close relationships. Nobody has 10,000 close friends.
No.
Nobody.
No,
right?
It's true.
You got 3 or 4, right?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's something else I wanted to share out of the same study. And I've actually read about it with some other stuff with health and wellness. In some societies, when they're asked this question, the answers are so vastly different from the average American. In Sardinia, Italy, or Okinawa, Japan, some of these blue zones they're called, they were asked questions about how many close friends they have.
Yeah.
And I think the studies were done in a way where I think they said, like, who you could call at 2:30 in the morning for any reason at all. How many people in your life do you have like that? That number was so much larger in some of these other communities with better health and wellness, right? Really? They had maybe a dozen people in their lives on average or something crazy like that. And then in America, it's about 1.5 people. That you could call at any time of the night for any reason.
You can call me at any time of the night for any reason.
Ditto.
Yeah. Okay. Just to clarify.
Seriously, though, think about it. Like that night that my truck was stolen at the airport.
Yeah.
About 2 a.m.
Yeah.
My flight was late out of Philadelphia. Landed. I called an Uber.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No,
an Uber was there.
I called my wife.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. Yep.
Well, some people aren't married, right?
Right.
But we all have those people in our life that's like, I didn't hesitate. Like, oh, I wonder if I should call my... No, I know my wife loves me.
Yes.
And I know she wants the best for me. I didn't think about it.
She would be mad if you didn't call her.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when I call her, she's like, well, it's 2 a.m. What's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my truck was stolen. Yeah. And then she says, well, why are you calling me? There's nothing I can do.
Way to go, idiot.
Just kidding. She didn't do that. But, I called an Uber.
Yeah.
Sorry, honey.
And from there, she told me, well, call an Uber. I'm not getting out of bed.
Well, actually, truth be told, I think she did say something like that. She not like that, but she said,
bleeding?
Do you need me to pick you up? And I'm like, no, I'll go, call an Uber.
Send the kids.
But the reason I bring that up, right? I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, it really felt like a big deal at the time. Like, my truck was stolen.
Sure,
right?
Well,
that never happened to me before. It was
that would be a big deal.
A bummer. But some of the other life emergencies that we can have, having your truck stolen look like, come on,
right?
Don't complain,
right.
Listen to this.
Yeah, it's just
my life is a country song.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that when we have those life emergencies, having that network of people around us, you know, and kind of setting your life up that way and investing in those relationships. I think sometimes we value in America so much achievement and money and esteem and accolades and power, position.
Yep.
Sometimes we forget how important this team part is in our life, and we lose sight of it. I lost sight of it, and I undervalued some of the relationships in my life, and I had to change things in my life so I could increase the amount of time I could invest in friends and family. So I think that's again why part of the reason why team is so important. And again, in that study I mentioned, this was one of those aspects of health and wellness that was associated with those blue zones, with communities that had a mortality rate that's close to 100 years old. I mean, a standard deviation above the average or the global life expectancy.
Yeah.
And so these communities are doing things that are really good somehow. They're living a life that promotes longevity.
Yeah.
And that's part of what health and wellness is. Like, God, we want to live longer. We want to thrive.
Sure.
And that THRIVE acronym, those pillars, I think the most important one is this team aspect. Team fit in the acronym, but really what is it? It's relationships.
Yeah.
It's community.
Yep.
That's really, I think, I would say the most important piece of our health to really, if you're going to major on the majors.
Yeah. Start there at least. That gives you a starting point.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you've got to go and be doing crazy workouts. Find some community, whether it's a religious organization, whether it's a fitness gym, you know, whatever it is, find your neighborhood, right?
Yep.
Your neighbors, right?
Yep.
Your family members, right? Some people have bigger families than others, right? Whatever that is, I think that's one of the things, I know that is one of the things that attracts people to the fire service, is that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that, you know, that bond built in battle, so to speak, you know. I remember when I was a fairly new fireman, and, you know, people, you could kind of sense that there was just kind of guys were getting grumpy.
Yeah.
And like, not like at me, I'm just saying like in general, guys were a little bit more grumpy. You'd go on calls and like, you know, just kind of bickering a little bit more. Yeah. And this captain that I had, he told me, he goes, all it'll take is one good fire. Yeah. One good fire where all of whatever shift it is comes together and battles that battle together. And all that other small stuff will just melt away. And we'll kind of remember back like, oh, what are we really here for? Like, we're here to watch each other's back. We're here to serve the community. We're here to put this fire out, right? Do all the cool stuff, right? And we realize we can't, like you said at the beginning of this, you know, in the movies, it's that one guy. Everybody knows it's in the fire service. It ain't one dude that puts, I can't pump and run command and pull the hose and use the chainsaw or the PPV fan and shut you. I can't do all that.
Arnold can.
Arnold can. I cannot. Rambo can. I cannot. It is a crew, and it's a coordinated effort, right? Yep. It is a coordinated. You can't do ventilation without communicating to the guys that are inside putting the fire out. You do that too fast or not fast enough, you could create issues, right? Yep. So again, I think that's why so many people are drawn to the military or the fire service or the police department, is that community.
And speaking of military and movies, I think there is a great series, Band of Brothers, right? I mean, one of my favorites.
Yes.
And actually, as I think about it as I'm talking, all my favorite movies really aren't that one guy. No. It's the community of people, whether it's, Band of Brothers is the example I'm thinking of right now, obviously. You know, it was interesting watching some of the commentary after the different scenes.
With the actual guys.
The actual guys, they're still connected to this day. Through that adversity of, you know, World War II.
There is no better bond formed in battle than,
And I felt the same way in the ER, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like you said, with the fire. Yeah. I know my nurses and my techs and my PAs, and when we fight together through these terrible situations, trying to save lives, and sometimes we can't. And when you endure that trauma. Adversity, the trauma together, it bonds you together. And there's a special thing that happened between me and my nurses. I'll never forget them. In fact, we still stay in contact. Some of the nurses I've worked with at other hospitals. I mean, there's something interesting that happens in trauma.
Yep.
The other thing, I told you about the Bavarian horses, like draft horses?
I haven't, but can I tell one story before
please.
it's in line with what you're saying?
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's because we had a bad call one day, really bad pediatric call. I won't get into the details of the call, but it was bad. And if I remember correctly, I think everybody that was on that call was a dad, right? We all came back to the station, right? And after a call like that, you're kind of getting the adrenaline dump and all this stuff. Had a really good captain at the time that recognized, hey, this was kind of a traumatic call, and recognized and came out to us and basically called us all together and said, if anybody needs to go home, I've already called the BC. You guys are free to go home. If you need to go home and hug your wife, hug your kids, you are free to do that. Go home if you need to. And so but here's the part. So we all kind of thought about it, and I was thinking to myself, and I thought, I don't really want to go home because my wife and my kids have no idea what I just experienced, the trauma that I just witnessed, or the experience that I just had. They have no way of relating to that. None. I mean, do I want to hug my kids? Do I want to hug Sure, right? Yeah. However, in this moment, I think I would rather be around my brothers at the time, my brothers who experienced the same thing that I just experienced, are probably having the same emotions that I'm having.
Right.
And I think I'd rather be here with them and be here for them, right? So that we could and then we kind of went to the back of the ambulance and we started talking, and then just like firemen do, we just start stuff. And that was more cathartic to me than going home and hugging my wife and kids, right?
Yeah.
And just, again, being with people that you've suffered that trauma with.
Yeah.
You hear people, I can identify with you. No, you can't, bro. Yeah. Unless you've done what I've done or done what other people have done. Unless you've been in the military, in the war, don't tell me that you can identify with somebody that's been in a war, because you cannot.
Yeah.
Period. So anyway.
Well, you reminded me of another story. Recently, we had a firefighter who was killed, and one of my friends, our friends, we both know him, was on scene, first on scene there. Not first, I think part of the team that was on scene.
He was the first crew that was on scene,
Yeah, and you may know who I'm speaking of.
I know exactly who you're speaking of.
Okay, and so being a friend of mine, and just because I love him, I called him, and I said, hey, how you doing? And he and I could hear in the background other voices, and so it sounded like a group of him and his colleagues all went to the bar. And I think it was a bar, maybe, or a coffee shop. I don't know where they were, but
no, he was at the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I went to the hospital.
They didn't go home.
They did not go home. I went. Well, he did go home shortly thereafter. It changed, but then came right back.
Okay.
But I went to the hospital because that's where our guy was.
Yeah.
And my first priority was finding that person that you're talking about, because I knew he was on scene. Well, not just him, but the whole crew, anybody that was involved. But I specifically knew that he was on that call.
Yeah.
And no, they were in a room talking with a physician friend of ours that we know, who worked at a different facility that came to this facility for him. And the whole department, kind of gathered. And I remember him coming out of the room, and
I remember
that big hug and all that. So were you there? You showed up after CEs.
So many people that were there because of, again, that community. That's what we're talking about.
Yep. There was probably easily 100, 150 firemen that were at the hospital within an hour of that happening. So anyway,
So we clearly community is good. Clearly community makes us stronger. And the analogy I like to use is the draft horses.
Yeah.
So one draft horse can pull 8,000 pounds. Two can. You'd think 16,000.
Right. You'd think doubles.
No. It pulls 24,000 pounds.
Right. Triple. Oh my God,
triple. Actually, I'm sorry. So you'd think 16,000 pounds.
Yeah. You times it by 2.
Yeah. You'd think that would be. That makes sense mathematically.
Right.
But when two draft horses pull together, they pull more than that 16,000 pounds. And I can't remember the exact number, but it's more. Yeah. But I do remember this, though. It was triple the amount when they'd been working together for an extended period of time. Oh. You put any two draft horses together, they'll pull more than double.
Right.
But when you have two that know each other and pull together, triple, 24,000 pounds.
Interesting.
Which is really, I think, a great analogy for what we're talking about with this team aspect of when you walk through life with a group of people. That's really, I believe, how we were designed to go through life with that significant other, with those friends, with that community of people you love and that love you. Yep. that's really how we were designed. And I think social media has really hurt that. COVID certainly hurt that.
Yep.
I think American culture, which was really from Epicurus, which is from centuries ago, where he had said the highest form of wealth is self-sufficiency, and which was what he was saying is that when you don't need anyone else, then you have achieved the highest form of wealth you could ever achieve. Well, what a crock of crap. We are learning now how self-sufficiency is actually almost the epitome of unhealthy living.
Yeah.
If you think you can live by yourself, totally isolated, you're really missing out on what life really means.
Yeah.
And there's more to it, obviously, but I think the Bavarian horse analogy fits really well. But I think another one that really fits better, and I think I've told you this: the redwood trees.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Tallest trees on the planet.
Yep.
Shortest root systems, the shallowest root systems.
They combine.
Yeah, and they don't just interlock with one another. They actually grow into one another and share nutrients.
Feed off each other, yeah.
And not just that, but they're supporting each other, giving themselves strength in their community. The tallest trees on the planet, shallowest root systems, sharing nutrients. I mean, it's really a plant community that I think is really powerful. And it's interesting when you study redwood trees. You don't have one redwood tree growing taller than the others. They will share their nutrients to help the other trees. I mean, one tree is close to a water source. That water source gets shared. I mean, it's a beautiful picture of community.
Yeah.
Taken too far, obviously, that's not good. But
right. Well, anything taken too far, I think, is probably not good.
But that's, I think, is what part of what team is about. You said, I think, the other big part of community, something else that we can leverage, isn't just the strength we get in community. Part of the strength we get in community is the accountability that we can lean on when we are trying to improve or sharpen our skills or stop a bad habit. When you're doing those things in isolation, whatever that bad habit is,
so easy to go back to it.
It is. Yeah. And it's hard to fix those things or change those things that we know are unhealthy when we're living in isolation. In community, we can I think we're better positioned to make changes.
Yep.
And I think we talked about that with this. This is interesting. So when you have a goal, you set a goal for me. What goal, like a health
run
goal?
A marathon.
Run a marathon. Okay. So if you want to run a marathon, and that would be success, and you just say right now, I want to run a marathon.
Right.
Only about 10% of people will actually do that.
Right.
Makes sense, right? 90% of people that say it will never do it.
Right. It's like 90% of people make fitness goals at the end of every year, and by January 2nd, or 100% by January 2nd, 90% have fallen off. Yeah.
The marathon goal may break down a little bit because that's such a huge goal, but let's just go with it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you consciously decide to do it now.
Yes.
You said it, but now it's like, you know what?
Now you've actually.
I said I want to run a marathon, but I'm gonna do it.
Well, now you actually sign up for the race. Like you convince yourself you're going to do it. Now I've actually gone on the website, paid the money, and entered to do the race.
But 25, a conscious decision. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but a conscious decision may mean buying the ticket or whatever.
Yeah.
Conscious decision then would be about 25% of people will be successful and actually do the marathon.
Okay.
Or whatever the goal is.
Right.
Now, if you assign a timeline, which may be more aligned with what you said, where you actually have the date now and you start to plan for it, maybe 40% are successful.
Okay.
You start making a plan. I've never run a marathon. I'm not that dumb. I'm kidding.
It's true.
I wish I could, actually. I love running.
Well, you can.
I'm just
Anybody
too big.
Can.
My knee would blow up, dude. I have 3 knee surgeries.
It'd be fine. Knee brace.
Maybe after I lose more weight.
There you go.
We'll see.
But
making a plan.
Yeah.
So now I've seen the running plan though for a marathon.
Yep.
It's pretty in depth. I mean, it's like
there's a billion different ones out there, but yeah.
But that's a plan, right?
Yes.
So if you actually make a plan, you're 50% now likely to go and achieve that goal.
Yep.
And then if you commit to someone else now, it's like, hey, Eric.
Partner. Come run this marathon.
Yeah, or hey, man, I've been thinking about this. I signed up for it. I've got a running plan. Let's do it together. I'm going to do it. You going to do it with me?
Yeah.
You commit to someone else, you could be 65% successful. But here's the kicker, and I think this is what accountability really is.
Yeah.
And this is really only seen if you're in community with other people, right? I mean, this is a fruit of that team aspect of life.
Yeah.
Is that when you have a specific accountability check-in, you know, Matt, I can't run the marathon because my knee is just blasted, but you know what I'll do? I'll go to the marathon the day you run, and I'll be there at certain checkpoints to hand you water or check on you, make sure you're okay. And
or if you have somebody that is physically capable and wants to do it, okay, we're going to meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. here, and you know that person's going to be there ready to run. So, man, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to get up.
But you get up, right?
Exactly. Because Eric's going to be there. I got to be there with him.
So that's a marathon example, but you can plug in anything.
Yes, exactly.
But that accountability, I think, is a huge part of the way when we're walking through life, life's ups and downs, those things in life that come up that you want to get better at, those health emergencies, right? Man, I've been eating sloppy my whole life. I've gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I got to get this under control.
Yeah.
When you have that arsenal of friendship on your side, you can use that and leverage that to make some life changes.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about this more at the end when we talk about the how, but I think this is a big part of the how.
Yeah.
In being able to, let me back up. You and I, anybody watching this podcast, are pretty smart, and we know the what.
Yeah.
We know what healthy really is.
Right.
There may be some nuances here of, wow, I didn't know that 60% of Americans felt lonely. And you know what? I only have 1.5 friends that I can call at 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
That illumination
Yes.
is knowledge.
Yes.
And that might be something that becomes clear to you listening to this. But I really believe that most of those low-hanging fruit of those things that we have in our lives, we know them already. It's just a matter of knowing how to do it.
That's right.
And I think that that accountability that we have with team gives us a lot of the ability to do it.
Yeah.
So I think, and I've told you this before, but the only way I've lost 40 pounds, I've tried to lose weight before, and I've done the
All
whole
the different diets. Yeah.
diet. Would you pick it? I've done them all.
Yeah.
Trying to lose weight. I have what the doctors call a bit of a weight problem. I got up to 300 pounds. That's too heavy for me. If I was 6 foot,
too heavy for almost anybody.
Yeah, I feel so much. I'm not quite to my goal yet, but I've lost 40 pounds. Recently, my friend and I were traveling together, and we were both putting our bags up on the scale. And my full-size roller bag was less than what I'd lost.
You're like, I was carrying all this weight around. Can you imagine putting that on your back and walking around all day?
No wonder my knees were hurting and I had plantar fasciitis, and we talked about this in other podcasts too, right? Those patients come to you, it's like, Doc, my knees are hurting, I need...
Well, have you tried losing some weight? Yeah.
Like I told you before, I've grown up with a family that struggled with weight, and nobody wants to be obese. No one does. No. But if it was easy to lose weight, then we wouldn't have anybody with weight problems.
That's right.
It's hard to do, but it is achievable though. And I think that a lot of it is that team aspect.
For sure. Yeah, it's a massive.
And that's what my friend and I did. I would not have been able to lose those 40 pounds. I've lost weight before, but it came right back, and I gained more.
Right.
But I think over the last year, for the first time in my life, I'm like, this is really working. Yeah.
Well, you're living proof that accountability and team is a huge part of a health and wellness journey.
There's another aspect to it too, is that I hit a number that really got my attention. Sometimes people have a health crisis, a heart attack or whatever, and that sometimes wakes them up. It's like, oh my gosh, I have been asleep at the wheel. Yeah. I need to take control of my life.
Pre-diabetic. My doctor says my A1C's through the roof. Yeah.
And again, I believe that we all know what to do. We just have a hard time doing it.
Absolutely. We always say that it's simple. It's not easy.
I love that. Yeah. You've said that before, and isn't it true?
It's so true about almost anything in life. It is simple. It is not easy.
Just not easy.
That's right.
If it was easy to do these things that we all want to achieve, then we'd all do it.
That's right.
That's a reason why not a lot of people do it.
That's right.
Yeah. The other thing I would say, it's one thing to be the team part, right? It's another thing to have that accountability. But I think a really big part this. Now, if you're not married, you may not, understand this yet. But and this could be a talk for another time. But marriage. I mean, if things are going rough there, it can have effects on every other pillar.
Well, relationships.
Yeah,
right.
so-
That's a big one.
And that'll be another podcast.
Yeah.
But for now, it's good. We did the T.
Yes.
Team, super important. Let's do the next one.
All right, on to the next one. See you on the next one.
Be safe out there.
Thank you for listening to EMS, the Erik and Matt Show.